Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone is having a fantastic Sunday so far. Let's see what we have in here today. We have Jake, Caleb. We also have Legacy, who is now a member for 32 months. You are getting close to that 3-year mark, Legacy. Thank you for continuing your membership. Greatly appreciate it. We also have Cody in here, Twin. Caleb is in here as well. And let me go down a little bit more here. We got Blah, Johnny, and Aaron, Pete. Glad to see you back in here. Hopefully everyone is doing well. If I forgot to welcome you in the chat, glad to see you in here. Welcome to the stream, as well as everyone else who is watching and may not be chatting. Glad to have you in here. All right, let me just double check here. We should be good to go. Switch on over. Everything looks good enough here. So yeah, we're going to be talking about our multiple days for severe weather, the same ordeal thing that we've been talking about for the last 3 or almost 4 live streams at this point. Really haven't seen any notable severe weather out of our first 2 days, being Saturday and Sunday. Today, our dry line retreated early in the morning hours, and that resulted in little to no initiation along our dry line this afternoon. There is a few rain showers going up now. This might be a thunderstorm report of 16 minutes ago, 59 mile per hour wind gusts out there for that report. So that is actually considered a severe thunderstorm, because severe thunderstorms are 58 mile an hour winds or greater. Hit it by 1 criteria, 1 mile an hour criteria right there. Barely got that in. But it's not actively a severe thunderstorm storm here. It looks fairly weak, so no kidding on why they didn't severe warn that. But 59 mile an hour wind gust report there out of Memphis in Texas, so that's something. But nothing very notable today. We did have a tornado warning in California today, as well as I believe yesterday, and then we did have a tornado warning in Texas today. But I don't believe we had any tornadoes today. Yesterday, we did have that random 5 sig upgrade in Kansas, Nebraska. We actually did see a tornado in the dead center of that 5 sig one. I don't think one singular weak brief tornado verifies a 5 sig one, but we all have our different verifications of things. You know, you're not going to agree with every single event, but yesterday very much easily could have verified as just a 2 sig one. That upgrade, just like I called out yesterday, thinking it was pretty useless. Didn't really need that upgrade. Seems like that was the case. We do have a storm that we're watching actively right now. Really want to keep an eye on this storm up here in Minnesota. It is a pretty interesting storm here. It's in a pretty favorable environment. The volatile environment looks to be probably back down here into northwest Wisconsin, and this storm is just north of that very volatile environment. So it's not in its peak environment, and it won't be in that very volatile environment. But we still could get a tornado out of it if we do see, our convergence signature begin to intensify and possibly get a good area of rotation. But right now, outflow is still seemingly winning here. You could see this looks like a relatively straight line here, but we are starting to see a little bit more notching on that newest scan. So that could be our kind of a feature that signifies that this is actually beginning to become tornadic now. It is also latched onto its own outflow boundary that you could see here. And then there is another some sort of boundary connected to it from down here. So this storm is very much geared up to try and produce a tornado, potentially even a strong one. And it all comes down to if that signature can intensify and this storm can really use up the environment that it has for only 60 more minutes or so. Really, once this gets to about 8:30, the latest 8:30 Eastern, it is going to be entering a considerably less favorable environment where instability will be decreasing very rapidly. So I'd say if this storm does produce a tornado, its best opportunity is within the next, roughly within the next 40 to 50 minutes here. Once we get past 8 o'clock, that chance goes down. And then once we get past 8:30 Eastern, that chance is going to go down extremely rapidly to where it will probably be a near 0% chance by the time we get to 9 p.m. The closer this thing gets to the Two Harbors area, right along this shoreline here, the lower the lower risk for tornadoes will have. So its greatest risk to produce a tornado is between Cotton, where it is now, and just west of Two Harbors. That's our best opportunity to see a tornado, which again will only be probably for the next 30 minutes to an hour. So we'll need to watch that closely just to see if it can take up that environment and really get its act together or not. See a lot of discussions about the categorical risk for tomorrow and Tuesday here in the chat. Let's see what some people are thinking. I'm going to go up here. Let's see. It was EFU. Oh, did that get confirmed in California? Or are you talking about the tornado in Kansas? I heard something about an EFU somewhere. California had an EFU. Okay, so we did have a confirmed tornado in California. You know if that was today or yesterday, Twin? Because I know we had a tornado warning for both today and yesterday in California. I say tomorrow can upgrade the tornado threat to SIG 1 or SIG 2. How about Tuesday? Tomorrow, I don't know. I feel like the SPC is going to want to wait a bit longer to upgrade that tornado threat. I'm very comfortable with what tornado risk they have out now because we don't know if storms are going to be firing on or north of that warm front. If storms fire north of that warm front, tomorrow's going to verify, just barely as a 2%. We probably won't see much activity tornadic-wise if storms fire north of that front. If they fire on that front, then we're likely going to see quite a few tornadoes, maybe one or two strong. And in that case, we may need to see that upgrade to a 10% SIG 1. And as for SIG 2, we'll just have to see like how sharp that boundary is, and again, if any storms ride that front or not. But yeah, I could see them doing any of those three, keeping it 5 SIG 1 or going 10 SIG 1 or 10 SIG 2. Well, I'll discuss it a little bit more once I get a better look at the mall runs here. But definitely wouldn't surprise me to see any sort of upgrade for our tornado risk tomorrow across Minnesota, Wisconsin. We do have a 2% back down here into Oklahoma and Texas. That risk doesn't impress me one bit for tomorrow. It could very conditional threat for large hail. If supercells can fire tomorrow, we could see a very isolated instance of large hail even greater than 2.5 inches in diameter. But our main hail threat will be focused up here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, where we will likely end up with hailstones upwards of 2.5 to 3 inches in diameter as those storms ride on or north of the warm front there across Minnesota and Wisconsin. So big time hail day for tomorrow, especially in our enhanced risk area. As those storms congeal into a line, we may be able to see some isolated damaging wind gusts upwards of 75 miles per hour. 70, 75 mile per hour wind gusts will be possible tomorrow across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and even into extreme northern Illinois and northeastern Iowa. And then overall, there's your categorical risk. We've got that level 1 in the marginal. Let me switch back to that. Level 1 in the marginal, level 2 in that slight risk yellow area, and then a level 3 out of 5 in that orange enhanced risk area. And then again, back here in Texas, Oklahoma, we only have that level 1 risk out of 5. So big risk tomorrow, mainly focused in Minnesota, Wisconsin, for large hail being the biggest problem. All right, before I go on to day 2, I want to just take another look at this. As long as you keep that outflow dominant look where it looks relatively like a straight line here, this is not going to be a tornado problem. When it becomes an issue is if you start to see any type of curling there towards the end, indicating a hook echo. I did hear that we have a mesoscale discussion on this, but I actually didn't get the chance to look at it. Short-term severe threat, but a watch is unlikely. Hail upwards of 1.5 to 2.5 inches in diameter. A brief tornado and 60-mile-an-hour winds all possible. A small window for large hail damaging winds and possibly even a brief tornado before storms cross over into cool air and weaken. Small clusters of storms have gradually intensified near the surface triple point low just to the northwest of Duluth? Something around there. This warm and moist sector, and immediately west of this low-moving lake breeze, there will be a narrow window for the environment to support supercells with the risk of low all hazards. Some threat for large hail once the storm becomes more elevated on the cool side of the lake breeze. Given the small area and time and space, a watch does not appear necessary. Too little coverage over too little time. So a watch would be pointless. I mean, we're talking about a watch for 2 or 3 counties here. So a watch would be literally pointless because by the time that watch is really even registered by the general public, there's a pretty good chance that this storm is going to be weakening and starting to die out because, it takes a little while to create those watches, correlate with local WFOs, and then actually get that out. So I don't think we'll end up getting any sort of watch from this. And I don't even think a watch is needed either because this storm is staying relatively on the weak side at the moment. Let me go back up here real quick. I think that California EFU tornado was confirmed from yesterday. All right, let's go to not tomorrow's outlook, day 3 outlook here. Day 3 here is for Tuesday, which we still don't have an enhanced risk out for some extraordinarily odd reason. I think we should have had an enhanced risk out 2 days ago for this severe weather threat here. And I believe we should already have an enhanced risk out for at least large hail across somewhere in this region. A little uncertain on how far north or south we need that enhanced risk, but somewhere from Iowa into southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, definitely should be under an enhanced risk. And there's a pretty good chance the SPC will upgrade to an enhanced risk sometime in the either the outlook tomorrow morning or the outlook tomorrow afternoon. I'd expect them to have a day 2 enhanced risk sometime tomorrow for Tuesday. And we can look at our probabilistic outlook. You can see the hatched risk goes all the way until just barely to the west of Chicago, just barely outside of Indiana, and it does include Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, and it actually, oddly enough, extends all the way back down here into central Texas, and that hatched risk even goes into southern Texas there for Del Rio on the Mexico-Texas border. And let's go right on into day 4. We have a risk on Wednesday. Wednesday still doesn't look impressive to me. I do think we'll have the risk for severe weather. I think we'll have the risk for 60 to 70 mile-an-hour wind gust, 1 to 2 inch hail, and maybe a brief tornado or 2. But I don't think Wednesday will be as big as Tuesday. And tomorrow is kind of like 50-50 for tornadoes because of storms fire again north of that front. Tornadoes won't be as big of a problem as if they fire on or south of that front. So Wednesday, not that impressive, but still a day where we'll likely see severe weather. Thursday, it's too low of probability for us to see, too low probability and predictability for the SPC to issue an outlook here. Thursday's iffy. I don't really see any notable severe weather at the moment for Thursday. We do have that conditional threat that some models were picking up on. I don't know if that is still there. Let me take a quick look at that really quick here. That's day 5. Yeah, picking up on the dry line in western Texas, western Oklahoma. So could have a severe threat there on Thursday. And then Friday, I believe this was added today because I don't think we had this yesterday. We called this out, I believe, in yesterday's live stream. I think they recently added this. The reason why I can't remember is because I've been talking about it already for 3 days. I've been mentioning it, I believe, on every one of our live streams about this upcoming threat. So I honestly can't remember if we've had this for a few days or not. I think it is new, but we do have a day 6 risk for Friday here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Lake, I really hope you are not talking about tornadoes. I think you're talking about hail. I don't think you'd be, from what I've seen from your previous chats, I don't think you'd be talking about tornadoes with that. But yeah, Friday, that looks pretty iffy. The reason why is because Friday could have a big lack of moisture, and it also could have a mistimed trough. So Friday easily could end up uptrending if that trough becomes more organized and we see better moisture. However, if it doesn't, severe weather will still be likely on Friday, just not going to see as big of a tornado threat as if that trough really gets its act together. All right, let's go over to here. Let's take a look at our HRRR 18Z run. So we're going to go and pull this all the way out till tomorrow here. And we should see pretty rapid intensification of severe storms once they fire along that warm front. So yesterday, remember I was talking about not enough forcing on that warm front from Kansas and Nebraska border. And that's why we probably weren't going to see, too many severe storms. We did end up with, I believe, a cluster of severe storms that stayed alive, and that's the cluster that produced a tornado. But we didn't end up with multiple semi-discrete supercells, like what we will probably end up with tomorrow afternoon and evening. And that's mainly because our forcing is going to be pretty great along that warm front, because there is significant change with wind speeds along that warm front. You've got a very, very sharp warm front here. I lose exactly where it goes from in there, but it's somewhere in there. Yeah, I can't tell how far south it goes. That's where your main instability is, but your main warm front actually, it looks like it's up here more. Yeah, and then you could see there's minimal wind change back here, so we're probably not going to see any storms fire in Michigan tomorrow until late in the evening hours. But you could see that significant wind change here before storms fire. You go from southeasterly to northeasterly winds. That is very significant changing wind speeds there once you cross that boundary and once you get on that front. And that is going to allow for storms to explode along that front. You could see it is an upper echelon environment. We are talking about the potential for an intense tornado, and we even could see a violent tornado if a storm gets in that open warm sector. However, I don't think we will see a storm in that open warm sector, so I don't think we have to worry about a violent tornado threat tomorrow, because we most likely won't see any storms inside of that volatile environment that exists across southeastern Minnesota and southwestern Wisconsin. So I wouldn't be worried about a violent tornado threat tomorrow, but I would be worried about a strong to intense tornado threat tomorrow when those storms first fire on the warm front. When they first fire along that warm front, they could be discrete to semi-discrete, and thus before they cross the boundary, they could produce strong to intense tornadoes, especially if any of them become latched to that boundary and begin moving to the east. So I would definitely be watching very closely along that boundary for a strong to intense tornado threat. And then large hail is going to be a giant issue. We could be talking about 3-inch hail tomorrow being a very real possibility with these storms as they go on or north of the front. Remember, there's a difference here. You have your surface-based instability, so this is where your front's located. Storms on and south of that front will be able to produce all hazards, including tornadoes. But you also have most unstable instability, which exists north of the front. That means storms, as they go north of that front and get more elevated, they are way less likely to produce tornadoes, but are actually more likely to produce large hail. So large hail, I expect to be a very big issue tomorrow, as long as storms don't go too linear, too fast. And you can see large hail and tornadoes, definitely large hail being a big problem here up until at least 10, 11 p.m. Eastern time. And then these storms congeal up into a slop fest line, producing 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts. And if we do see any bow segments in this, like it looks like this might have like a bowing segment here. See that updraft track? And that would be able to produce, if that actually verifies, 70, 75 mile an hour winds, you know, a little bit more significant wind speeds with that. And you can also see it's latched onto the warm front here on the HRRR, so that would also definitely have a tornado threat with it as well. This little guy here right now is an outlier. I looked at a few models, and I think the only model that really shows this is the HRRR. And then the NAM3K does show a little bit of the same thing, but the NAM3K is significantly later, so that storm's not in as volatile of an environment. So we will have to watch that low pressure to see if the low pressure is strong enough along a triple point like what the NAM has here to actually warrant like a 10 sig tour that far to the west. But right now, I believe the HRRR is an outlier with that, and I'm not concerned about it yet. Now, if that stays on this model run until tomorrow, then I can get more concerned about that, and then we can start looking at a big-time tornado threat along that triple point in southern Minnesota. Taking a look at our storm in northeastern Minnesota right now, it looks like outflow has won. You see this here, that's an outflow boundary. And that outflow boundary looks like it is starting to. It still looks like it's really attached to that hook. The outflow really hasn't fully won yet. That outflow boundary would need a surge in front of the storm. And it doesn't look like that's the case. But for the moment, this is a more outflow dominant storm, although outflow hasn't totally overtaken this. Hear me out. If we get the NAM environment in Kansas and Iowa with semi-discrete to discrete supercells, then absolute worst case scenario would be a 30 sig 2 verification. Okay. You can calm down now. First off, it's the NAM. It's not going to verify like that. And second off, even in that case, most likely you're looking at a very clustered mode. So I would extraordinarily disagree with an upper echelon scenario being a 30 sig 2. I think upper echelon is like 15 sig 2. I think that is as high as Tuesday gets. Like, if we're talking about worst case scenario, I think 15 sig 2 tour is a worst case scenario. I think hail is going to end up being the biggest problem with this, as you have just an insane amount of most unstable instability across your warm sector and warm front. Yeah, and I mean, the NAM likely overdoing the environment anyways. We could take a look at the RAP, which could be a little bit more realistic. But you could see even the RAP has spots of a volatile environment. So, yeah, I don't really think... Tuesday doesn't scream moderate for tour to me. I think Tuesday is probably going to end up being a 10 sig. 10 sig 1 is probably going to be the risk for Tuesday. So, yeah, but it is just the NAM. Because you can't tell me this environment and this environment are the same. The NAM has a way more widespread volatile environment and a way more favorable environment, even all the way down into Oklahoma. Whereas the RAP model has a favorable environment pretty much limited to this area and here. And that volatile environment is actually really limited to the open warm sector, not even along the warm front. Which, matter of fact, I don't even think that's the warm front. Oh, that was close to the warm front. Warm front's up here. So now my question is, do storms fire? That is something that's interesting on the RAP. I don't know what this is, but it has convection in the open warm sector here away from the warm front, which I find very interesting. Here's the NAM 3K for Tuesday, which actually goes out far enough. And you can see, looks like the NAM and the NAM 3K. I mean, gracious day. The actual target area on this day is Oklahoma. Haha, bet you didn't see that one coming. I would probably go for Oklahoma if this were true. Because I would be taking a dry line setup over a Slopfest warm front setup any day. Yeah, let me draw that warm front, because a lot of these actually look like they're on the warm front here. Draw out that warm front for you. Goes back to your low here. And then this is a dry line, not a cold front. That is your dry line. You don't have a cold front for Tuesday. At least not a strong cold front. There may be a weak cold front in like Nebraska and northern Kansas, but you don't have a strong cold front. All right, so that's the frame that I drew here. Right there. And there is no open warm sector development here on the NAM 3K. You would definitely have big problems along that warm front if anything could fire discrete. Specifically, it looks like southern Wisconsin and eastern Iowa is the best example for this. But the problem is a lot of those storms are firing north of the front. This stuff's north of the front. All of this stuff is north of the front. This stuff is all north of the front. Basically meaning that wind and hail and a very little tornado threat. The biggest problem would be any storms that fire in that open warm sector down in here, and then anything on that front in Iowa into southern Wisconsin. Maybe even into Michigan. Maybe even into Michigan. But not as good of an environment up there. And I do think something like the RAP is more likely. I don't think the NAM is like extraordinarily dead wrong. We will probably see an environment somewhere between the NAM being very volatile and the RAP still having some volatile environment. We'll probably see something in between that. I don't think we're going to see like an environment like the GFS, which is something you don't want to use, 2 days out. You want to start using your cam models there. So a worst case scenario is a moderate for Tor. And I think we're going to have to see a lot of stuff change for that. I don't think what we have here on our models is worthy of a moderate for tornadoes. But like I said, I think the SPC is probably going to go 10 sig 1. That would be something I completely can agree with there. Now, shoot, if we wake up to day 2 moderate, I will gladly go ahead and just, accept my fate that I'm dead wrong. But I don't think we're going to be getting no day 2 moderate when this thing's still day 3 slight. I really don't even think we should be talking about a moderate type of event for this, because you don't have a bunch of forcing. You just don't. Really, being realistic, the only storms that should fire are on the warm front and a conditional dry line threat. Realistically, you shouldn't have anything in the open warm sector because you don't have notable forcing. Let's go to the 18Z RFSA to try to see what that has. So this is for tomorrow. You could see RRFSA very clearly has that sharp warm front. Definitely big problems in Minnesota, western Wisconsin. Yep, big problems in Minnesota, western Wisconsin there on the RRFSA. Let's just pull that back. You didn't see that. Hopefully you didn't see that. Yeah, RFSA doesn't have anything with that triple point back here either. And I think this might be a little bit too far west. I think this might be a little bit too far to the west here. I don't know if we're going to see supercells all the way into eastern South Dakota. But we may. You know, you're really going to have to watch that whole warm front, to be honest with you. I mean, you're really just going to have to watch that whole warm front from eastern Wisconsin all the way into eastern South Dakota. And a very conditional warm front in Michigan. Very conditional warm front threat in Michigan. Let's go ahead and pull that out. I wonder if anything does fire on this. So, of course, South Dakota, Minnesota pops off on this model run. Even Wisconsin pops off. A warm front does pop off when you have a bit better forcing because this line pulls through. That helps as a kind of a forcing mechanism right along that warm front. So these storms fire along the warm front. I doubt something like that's going to happen where you get a storm in Detroit. I highly doubt that. You ain't got no forcing down there. If we just pull this forward here. This is into Tuesday. I want to draw out your warm front here. I'd have to imagine your warm front. Let's see if I can kind of guess. Is your warm front that far north or is it not? Dang! See, now in a scenario like that, I could very much see a moderate risk being on the table. When your warm front is into central Wisconsin, like holy crap. And you do get a random open warm sector supercell on this. But yeah, it still kind of gives me the same general idea that the main problem is going to be along the warm front. It's just with this model run, all the storms that are firing are actually south of the warm front, so they're all going to be a crazy severe threat. So, yeah, I think we just got to wait and see what our models show as we get closer to Tuesday. But tomorrow, big time hail threat tomorrow for sure. Big time hail threat. That tornado risk, we'll probably see that 5% extended a bit more to the west. I don't know if it will quite go into South Dakota or not. We'll probably see, we're probably going to be on the border of a 10 sig tour tomorrow. Either upper echelon 5 sig 1, which is what we're at now, or we'll get to that 10 sig 1 tornado risk for tomorrow. Damaging winds will be a problem. However, it will be our least concern for tomorrow. Hail and tornadoes will be the primary concern, followed by damaging winds. And then day 3, I think we should already have an enhanced for hail and tornadoes somewhere in this vicinity. A best spot would be southern Wisconsin, eastern Iowa. I think we should already have an enhanced out for tor and hail. And anything higher than that, talking moderate level, you're going to have to wait until, either the night before or day of to start talking about really upgrading that risk, because you don't really want to trust cams this far out. You definitely want to look at them for sure. You want to look at them, 2 days out. But in terms of making a decision of if you should go moderate, it's not the best idea. Only in very, very rare cases does that actually happen. You do have a lot of broad 700 millibar here. So that's why the RAP initiates. Is that different than the NAM? Ah, much different than the NAM. So that's why the RAP initiates open warm sector convection. Because you've got 700 millibar down into central Missouri for your trough. And the NAM keeps that 700 millibar very tight up here along the dry line and warm front. It's not very well out in front into Illinois and Indiana. That is going to be something we want to watch for open warm sector development, because that would lead a chance for all significant hazards in central Illinois into western Indiana. Thank you, Major, for the $2 donation. Do you think a hail is possible tomorrow? Or do you think a moderate is possible? Gracious. I've completely misread that. I mixed up moderate and hail. Do you think a moderate is possible tomorrow for hail? Look at me trying to speed read. I don't think a moderate. A moderate for hail is possible. Do I think it will happen? No. But it wouldn't surprise me if they put out a SIG 2 hail risk. Wouldn't surprise me if they extend this 30 SIG hail risk in all directions, and then they add like a SIG 2 up here, right along and north of that warm front. And then as for hail on Tuesday, I think we'll have an enhanced for hail on Tuesday, but probably tomorrow could be bigger for hail than Tuesday. We'll just have to see. They're both warm front setups, so both of them are going to have big hail no matter what. Because whenever you have a high amount of CAPE on a warm front and north of the warm front in a setup like we have on both of these days, you're definitely going to be looking at a big time hail threat. When does 00Z come in? What is that? 8:55 roughly. 8:55, I believe, Eastern time. It begins to render for the HRRR. The NAM follows quite a bit later than that. I have times up over here. Let's see. Well, I used to have a site that shows the model runs when they come in, but I can't seem to find it. But I know at least the 00ZH starts right around 8:55 Eastern. Somewhere around there. We need the HRRR to go out further. I wouldn't be against that, but the problem is that's going to create a lot more panic. Because we already have the RRFSA, which goes out considerably far, and because of that, it creates a lot of panic, and then by the time you get to day one, the thing looks like trash. So, yeah, this storm didn't do anything. Looked pretty good for a while there, going into a favorable environment, but now it's in the cool pool, and it's cooked. It is cooked. So that's not going to be a problem anymore, thankfully. And it looks like outflow 1 on that. What's that? Flash flood warning. Will there be exploding trees? Not today. It's too hot. Exploding trees only happen with extraordinarily cold temperatures. What's my worst day? Well, I mean, the dry line might just set up far enough west to where it's not a problem for you. Today it set up in western Oklahoma, eastern Texas, so that was no problem, and it barely even fired. Tomorrow it's going to set up in central Oklahoma, and right now I don't think anything's going to happen on that. Yeah, probably nothing's going to happen on that. And then Tuesday, I believe your dry line's going to also set up in central Oklahoma. Oof. Yeah, dry line sets up in central to western Oklahoma in that area. And Wednesday might be the day you have to watch most because that's when your main front's going to push through. Or at least your not front. The best chance for dry line initiation will push through. Actually, it might be a front. Can I check? Looks like a front to me. Yeah, looks like a front to me. Tuesday, there is definitely a front that pushes through overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning because of your trough. So Wednesday's probably your best risk. All the other days will probably have severe weather somewhere in Oklahoma, but it will probably be to the west. And Thursday, right now, the GFS is actually thinking Thursday will be your biggest day. Puts the severe threat right over your neck of the woods. However, a few other models suggest otherwise, suggest that it will be a little bit further off to the west towards central Oklahoma. So I'd also be watching Thursday just to see where that sets up. Friday should be to your west. Then I'd probably watch Saturday again. So right now, Wednesday's probably your best day for severe weather. But I would definitely be also watching the risks going into next week as well. Or late this week. So on simpler terms, yeah, Wednesday. But the good news is Wednesday probably won't have a high-end environment. So even if storms do happen, they'll likely be like low-end severes or barely severes. Can we talk about Friday? I mean, I just mentioned it a bit, but if you want a quicker rundown of it. Here is your mean supercell composite. Highlights Iowa, southern Minnesota, southern Wisconsin, northern Iowa, and northern Illinois. But the thing I'm really worried about here is if we go to the GFS, you could see generally that same area under the gun on the GFS model run. Go to moisture. Not a big problem on the GFS. Not a big problem on moisture on the GFS. But the problem is a mistimed trough. The GFS doesn't really have as bad of a mistimed trough as the Euro and the Canadian. So it just depends on the timing of that trough and the trough's geometry. I think severe weather will be likely on both Friday and Saturday. But tornado-wise, definitely could be a big problem with just sheer not overlapping with best moisture. How's tomorrow looking? Very, very good for hail. Tornado threat looks pretty good. Conditional intense tornado threat. I think tomorrow should go probably 10 sig 1. Tuesday, the hail threat looks relatively the same as tomorrow, so we probably will see 30 sig 2 for hail on Tuesday as long as things stay the way they are. But the tornado threat could potentially be higher on Tuesday than tomorrow. It all comes down to the position of that warm front and where that dry line is, which over the last 2 days has not been good. Today it didn't work out well in Oklahoma and Texas. Yesterday it didn't work out at all across much of Texas until the overnight hours when that QLCS, I believe, had like one tornado warning with it. So But tomorrow and Tuesday are way better setups than yesterday and Saturday, that's for sure. Or yesterday and Friday. Gracious, I can't English. Way better tomorrow and Tuesday are way better setups than today and yesterday. There you go. That's what I was trying to say. Moderate for tornadoes Tuesday in Missouri. Um, for your neck of the woods, I don't think so. Let's see here. Right now, this model doesn't have anything firing on the dry line for you. See a very sharp dry line. Very sharp dry line there. And storms fire on the north side of that and the south side of that. But nothing in the middle. So I don't think we'll see a moderate for Tor into western Missouri. But there is a chance we see an enhanced risk 3 out of 5 close to your area. It just depends on the forcing. We'll probably see, like I said, an enhanced risk up here, roughly up in here for hail and probably tornado eventually. And they might end up considering back down into Missouri and Kansas as well, but it comes down to forcing. You'll likely have a decent environment. It's just uncertainty on stuff firing on that dry line. Moderate for Tor, northeast Iowa. I wouldn't rule it out for eastern, southeastern Iowa on Tuesday, but it's not likely by any means. Monday, 90% enhanced, 10% moderate. Tuesday, 10% slight, 40% enhanced, 50% moderate. Okay. But here's the thing. Why? The only model run that... There's really no model that, in my opinion, is worthy of a moderate for Tor for Tuesday. Like I said, the rat model is pretty close to that because it has open warm sector development. But the thing is, like, if you had the environment that the NAM has up in Iowa and Wisconsin and the initiation that the RAP has, then that would be the type of threat that could potentially go moderate. But at the end of the day, what's happening here is you're getting caught up on the categorical risk and not the actual hazards. That's the thing. The Mother Nature doesn't listen to the SPC. Mother Nature will do whatever it wants, and sometimes that is borderline defying physics. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, Mother Nature is not going to follow the borders that the SPC sets. It's not going to follow the exact hazards that the SPC calls for. It's going to be different. It's pretty rare that you see a perfect verification of the SPC outlook mixed with what actually happened. So your reason for a moderate is because you think a model run will look crazy like the NAM. Huh. Interesting. It almost sounds like you only forecast based on Twitter. Let me guess, RFSA is your favorite model run too? Yeah, the HRRR is going to look crazy tonight, but the number one thing I want you to pay attention to when you look at the HRRR tonight, here's your homework. Here's your homework. Pay attention to where the HRRR initiates supercells along the warm front. Where's that warm front correlated to where the HRRR is going to initiate supercells tonight? Which what's strange here is I don't even know if that's like not even your warm front here, because your warm front is where your wind barbs change direction. And that's right in here. So your warm front, it's like, what's the cape doing way up here? That's weird. It's like some cape is sneaking through the warm front or something. I didn't think that was a thing. Because you could see, look, you could see your main warm front here portrayed by those wind barb change, and then it also matches where the best ingredients are. That's where your main warm front is. And you've got this little area that's like wanting to be a secondary warm front that's not in any way a warm front because it doesn't change wind speeds. So, a little strange thing right there. Yes, I do remember that. And it was a pretty destructive event. A moderate was definitely a good call there for wind. Now, the SPC's tornado risk was utter garbage for that day. That day did not look like no 15 sig 1. I will guarantee you that. And it definitely didn't verify as one. I try to overhype, but I will admit most of the time I am definitely a bit more on the aggressive side of things. I will admit. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't overhype. I try not to, but you're going to catch me quite a few times a year overhyping. Because sometimes I get a little bit too ahead of myself, and I see all these colors. I see a bunch of cape. I see a bunch of wind shear. I see a great lower level jet stream, great mid level jet stream. HRRR is going crazy, and yeah, sometimes I will definitely, go a little bit too strong on the wording. And the thumbnails, man, I try with the thumbnails, but oh my word, I don't think you guys realize how difficult it is to draw accurate thumbnails. If you haven't tried it yourself, you don't know how difficult it is. Like the thumbnails, I have to manually draw every thumbnail. It's not fun. It is not fun. So sometimes those colors are going to be completely dead wrong. But like the thumbnail that I have here on this live stream, I try to combine day 1, day 2, day 3. But I couldn't combine all the risks because there's so many. Like sometimes you get so many risks, I can only open 4 tabs at a time on one monitor. And look at 4 tabs at the same time. It's way easier than it sounds. Just draw the SPC outlooks. Yeah, that's pretty easy when like you have a risk like this. That's not too difficult. But when you incorporate and try to draw the day 1 combined with the day 2, combined with the day 3, combined with the day 4, combined with the day 6, that's when it gets difficult. Because you lose a sense of where your boundaries are on the categorical risks. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 live streams, because these have been briefings where I'm talking about, 3 to 6 different days of severe weather at once. So marginal is dark green and enhanced is orange. Or orange, if you say it that way. Yeah, that's the only color that I've heard that's controversial to say. Orange, orange, orange. I've heard it said like 2 or 3 different ways. Yeah, like this is dark green right here. That color, that's the color of the enhanced risk. There you go. I was thinking of that clip too. Oh my word, it's funny you say that. I was thinking of that exact clip too. There's a clip of that from a famous rapper. Oh man. No, Legacy, Grumpy Grandpa, I think you were talking about the color of enhanced risks on the SPC outlook, right? Not my thumbnails. On my thumbnails, it varies, but like the one I have now, the orange, this is weird. The orange is actually kind of like the orange I don't really draw based on the SPC outlook because then it looks too insane. Like imagine trying to draw this out on a Photoshop. It's very difficult if you want to draw all this out perfectly on orange. So what I would end up doing is I would probably just completely forget about this side of the risk right here, since there's not a lot of population. And I would probably end up drawing the orange like this. Something like that. And then the red up here, the red down here, and then the purple down there. Let's see. What? I don't want to say his name. No channel names, remember? No channel names, bro. I don't get what that thing's all about, Kevin. People are talking about that thing spiking all the time. I forgot what it even is because I've been out of school for so long. I wonder where that came from because like nobody was talking about that except in school, and now out of nowhere everyone's talking about it everywhere. But yeah. Slight, moderate, higher, easy, but the other two trip me up. Yeah. I have a friend who's colorblind and his warnings are all out of whack. They are all different sorts of colors. And that confuses me, but to him it looks normal, you know, to him it's yellow for yellow for a severe thunderstorm warning and red for a tornado warning, but for me it might be like freaking blue for a tornado warning and purple for a severe warning. I forgot exactly what it was because I haven't seen his screen in so long. But I just know it was like two crazy colors. I'm like, is that a Tor E or a special weather statement? So, yeah, I'm not sure if your ears are crazy like that too. And they look normal to you, but they're actually different colors. Completely different to like the ones I use. But welcome back for the 5th time, Caleb. Is that all you're going to say in my chat today is back, back, back? How many times have you said that? Did you ban somebody? Wait, did you ban someone, Caleb? Hold on a second. Did I miss something in chat here from a while ago? Caleb banned Haley? Well, she's got to be unbanned because I saw her typing not long ago. Caleb, that's a demotion, bro. Oh man, I might have to demote you. Is this radar down? I think the Frederick radar's down. Yep, I just found that out. I'm not always able to pay attention to chat. It flies by so fast and I get locked in talking about I don't know, something. I got distracted talking about probably the weather. Haven't been in a moderate since 2018. I still haven't been in one since 2023 because that one that was That when that happened this year, across Virginia and North Carolina, I was barely outside of, I think I was one county outside of. Live for now, Cactus, but we're towards the end of it. You know what's funny? If I ended at my original time, right now, I would have just cut off. I would have just hit the end button and the outro music would have finished. You would have tuned in right when we normally end because I was live from 7 to 8 was the plan, but we're going longer because why not? But yeah, tomorrow the plan is to just wait and see for a live stream. I might do 2 live streams tomorrow. It depends. I may have like a live stream at like just afternoon. And then our primary live stream near dinner time. Nah, I ain't staying here for the 000Z. If it was a day 3 high risk, I would. But it's a day 3 slight still. Yep. Don't know how it's a day 3 slight, but it sure is. Actual slop tomorrow. You know, it very well could verify like that. It very well could just verify as a slop fest with just a bunch of hail reports, wind reports, and then not a bunch of tornado reports. So, like, if tomorrow is actually just slop, that slop can still be significant slop. Where in the world is this at? There you go. Is day 3 high risk even possible? No. That's why I said it. That's why I said it. Because I'm not going to be live for 3 hours watching a model run. If I want to do a 00Z watch party, what I'd do is I'd start at 9 o'clock. That way it can be done. 00Z typically finishes at 10 o'clock my time. Yeah, so like I said, even if it is a slop fest, kind of like what the HRRR shows, these storms are still going to be able to produce very large hail, damaging winds, and this is a little bit less of a slop fest because you do have a few supercells that are probably latched onto the boundary on this run. I'll never forgive you because you said day 3 high risk. I said it on purpose. Because, like I said, I'm not going to be streaming for 3 hours for a model run. Will I go live Tuesday? Is the M for morning or just Tuesday overall? I'll be live Tuesday for sure. Yeah. It's official day 2 high risk. No. This isn't Twitter in here. This isn't Twitter. Although Grumpy Grandpa, I think, is making it Twitter. I have a feeling THG's been sponsored by the water bottle he drinks every stream. Nope. I'd be getting sponsored by the good water too, not the cheaper water. Be getting sponsored by the really expensive one. I wouldn't be worried for these upcoming events, no. In Kansas City, no. Definitely want to watch them closely for sure, especially Tuesday. Because if anything does fire, you could have some pretty big hailstones because of that higher end environment. But no, I wouldn't be worried in Kansas City, Missouri. Central Illinois on Tuesday. That's tricky because it comes down to two things: where the warm sector is and if we get open warm sector storms. There will be a chance for a brief tornado around the Kansas City, Missouri area, but that chance should be no higher than 2%, most likely. So the RAP model here shows development in the open warm sector, and in that case, yeah, I could see an enhanced risk being from like central Indiana, central Illinois, all the way back into Iowa, back up into Wisconsin, and then into Michigan. But there's another scenario where the open warm sector doesn't fire, and in that case, we'd be looking at something closer to like what the NAM3K has here, where your most likely area for that enhanced risk would be from southern Wisconsin back to central Iowa, northern Missouri, northern Illinois. So it just depends. If storms fire in the open warm sector, that enhanced risk would likely be further down to the south and to the east. If they don't fire in that open warm sector, it's going to be off to your north. But either way, you're going to have a chance to be in an enhanced risk. It's just will either go one way or the other. Either you'll be barely outside of it or you'll be in it. I could see a moderate for Tuesday. Like I said, if things do uptrend, we do see that environment that the NAM has paired with the open warm sector convection that the RAP has. But right now, I don't see a need for like a day 2 moderate. Again, we're talking about a moderate risk while we're looking at a slight risk, you know? That's like there being a day 2 slight risk, and you're talking about a high risk day 1 or a moderate day 1. It's like, why are we talking about a moderate risk when we're still at a slight risk? We're going to need some pretty severe uptrends for that to happen. Let's see. Most likely area for a moderate. I kind of don't want to point that out because then if they don't do a moderate, and I pointed that out for pretty much like no reason. I'm pretty confident they're going to end up putting an enhanced risk out, which is why I drew that. For a moderate, you know what? I'll show you this. So this is a model run that has an outlook, and that paints the best picture for a moderate over a quite substantially large area here. And the dead center of that is in eastern Iowa and western Illinois. So if I had to say where the most likelihood of a moderate would be, I would say on the northwest quadrant of this purple area. I would say we end up seeing that higher end environment where we end up with a large enhanced risk across this area here. And then we see a moderate in here. But the likelihood of seeing a moderate is extremely low at this point. Because it's just there's not that level of confidence. There's really no model run that shows the type of environment paired with thunderstorms where you would need a moderate. I like how you guys are all saying stuff about me using CSU, but obviously you know what CSU is, so you use it too. So take that one. You guys are obviously hating on this because you know what it is and you've used it. Oh yeah, I'll look at that too. Uh, I don't have that one saved, so I gotta go over here. Oh, dang, I'm glad that was the right site, because I didn't even know it was gonna pop up right there. Alright, let's go here. This is another one. And yeah, that doesn't have a moderate at all for Tuesday. For some reason, that's actually painting Oklahoma and Kansas as probably the best spot. And the reason for that, I would assume, is because the NAM convex along that spot in north central Oklahoma. So shows you how much consistency we have. But actually, weirdly enough, this is the enhanced risk that this has. Don't ask me why it has an enhanced risk from freaking Northwest Ohio and the border of eastern Michigan all the way down to the border of Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, CSU is pretty dang close to that too. It doesn't go as far southwest with the enhanced. But I'm really wondering what CSU sees in central Illinois. Because like I said, we have the NAM 3K, the RAP, and the RRFSA, and I think maybe the only model run that is remotely close to CSU is the RAP. So I think CSU is overdoing the probabilities right now with a moderate. I don't see why that's needed. Wednesday. Let's see what this has for Wednesday. Day 4, there's the SPC you can see here in the yellow. That's the one you should listen to. That's the outlook you should listen to. And CSU is painting from roughly western Illinois down through eastern Oklahoma. Whereas this one's painting from southern New York all the way to central Texas. So it looks like, from what I've experienced, CSU is typically off on the placement of the best chance for severe weather. And this is often too large of an area under the gun for severe weather. At least that's what I've experienced from both. CSU typically overdoes it with probability and placement. And then this just is too large of an area. But I do want to see. Let me see. Wednesday. Yeah. You can definitely see that the main area is right in here on the GFS. Heard of StormNet? Sure have. I actually followed that a long time ago when it was first coming out. And then got to chat a bit with the owner of it. I did look at StormNet already. I've been looking at that for the last few days. StormNet was the first thing to highlight the triple point and the warm front for both Tuesday, or both Monday and Tuesday. And I know it's been pretty aggressive on Tuesday for a while. Looks like it's actually hinting at also Wednesday, the main area being along the warm front. So I would never fist fight Royals ever. So either he would win or we would both absolutely go crazy talking about the weather. Yeah, 30 minutes till HRRR starts rendering. But it's actually 40 minutes from now, by the way. 40 minutes till HRRR starts rendering, and it's actually an hour and 40 minutes until it gets out till the last frame of Tuesday. So I'm not going to stay all the way till then. If you want to, though, you can talk about it in my Discord server. I'll probably be in general chat. I'll probably post a few screenshots of the HRRR knowing how it's probably going to be crazy. Caleb, don't do that. I'll have to set an alarm. Final thoughts? Yeah, let me go through that before we start to conclude. All right, so today, garbage. All right, next, tomorrow, I think the warm front is obviously going to be the main area to watch for very large hail. I think the SPC is going to end up upgrading the hail threat to a Sig 2. Very large hail, 3.5, 4 inches in diameter. I could see being a possibility tomorrow. Damaging winds up to 75 miles per hour. A few tornadoes, maybe even, one or two strong, possibly even an intense tornado. Wouldn't rule out an intense tornado if we could get a storm to latch onto that boundary, onto that warm front, and track to the east, kind of like what the HRRR is saying here for some of these storms back in towards the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And then I would also watch the triple point just in case in southwest Minnesota. However, I doubt the triple point is going to do anything in southwest Minnesota. I think the HRRR is overdoing that. But definitely the main threat tomorrow by a milestone is large hail, followed by that strong tornado threat, followed by the damaging wind threat. Day 3, Tuesday, I think we'll see a day 2 enhanced risk for at least hail, but probably for hail, wind, and tor across Wisconsin, Iowa, maybe even into northern Missouri, and definitely into northern Illinois. That's the area where I think they're going to upgrade to a enhanced risk. Could be a little bit more north than that. It just depends on what our 00Z runs show tonight. Another thing, the hazards, very large hail, I think will be similar to what we see tomorrow. I think we could see large hail 3.5 inches in diameter. Probably looking at a 30 Sig 1 or 30 Sig 2 for the hail probs. On Tuesday, tornado threat is probably going to be the same, if not maybe a little bit higher on Tuesday, which is why I was talking about that moderate risk being a possibility. And damaging winds will also be very much possible. Probably we'll see an enhanced for that as well on the day 2 outlook. Once this day 3 outlook goes to the day 2 outlook. Then as for Wednesday, I'm not too interested in Wednesday at the moment. I agree with the SPC's outlook. I think the SPC is a great outlook right now. I disagree with what CSU and NSSL has. But the main threat for Tuesday, or rather, main threat for Wednesday, is going to be large hail, followed by damaging winds. And the best tornado threat might actually be focused up to where the warm front is, like what StormNet was picking up on. Day 5, Tuesday, I would just watch the dry line in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas for anything, but probably not much on Thursday. And then Friday, it's a bit far out right now, but I think that entire area just watch for like 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, 1 to 1.5 inch hail, and a brief tornado or two. That's what I'm looking at right now. However, Friday could very easily uptrend. All it takes is that trough to be a little bit faster, and Friday could end up being a big threat like tomorrow. And then after Friday, not sure if we've got a good signal after that. Lord have mercy, do we ever? All right, first, let's go find the date of Friday. April 17th. So that is the 18th is right here. So it looks like we might even have a chance for severe weather on Saturday, but Friday shows up as a big signal. Thursday shows up as a pretty good signal. Wednesday shows up. Tuesday really shows up. Monday, tomorrow, not really much. Shocked that Monday isn't really picked up much on this. Probably because the GEFS ensembles are underdoing the environment. Probably Cape. But Tuesday, big signal there on the ensembles. Wednesday, like I said, that's going to be the day that's a little bit more iffy. Probably going to be watching the warm front more on Wednesday. And then Thursday, watching the dry line in western Oklahoma, western Kansas, north central Texas. Friday, just watching that entire 15% chance for severe weather where the SPC is outlined. And then again, Saturday decreased, Sunday decreased in severe weather. We may enter like a 3-day lull of activity going into next weekend, but then we'll probably pick right back up on it towards the end of April. Right back up on the risk for severe weather. Summary, huge hail tomorrow, upwards of 3.5, 4 inches in diameter. Tornadoes possible, strong tornado, intense tornado, also possible if storms latch onto the boundary. Tuesday, huge hail threat, damaging wind threat also pretty high. Possible moderate risk if uptrends continue for Tuesday. A few intense tornadoes may be possible if uptrends keep going. Wednesday, overall, just a large area under the gun for severe weather. Only place to really watch for tornadoes is northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin along the warm front. Thursday, watch the dry line in Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. Friday, watch the general area. Looks like a meh threat for severe weather. Not anything too big at the moment. And you can see this picks up on it. So here's today. Texas is the main event. Tomorrow, main event, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And then Tuesday, main event. This is really wanting the dry line in Oklahoma and Kansas, but also back up into Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois would still be an area to watch for sure. And then Wednesday, best chance for tornadoes again, probably going to be along that warm front up here in Wisconsin, but also going to be definitely watching back into Oklahoma. Thursday, watch that dry line in Texas, Oklahoma. Friday, pretty large area under the gun for severe weather, but again, the main tornado threat probably going to be along the warm front in Wisconsin. Saturday, that looks to be a break day, probably, maybe just a continuation of some damaging winds. Sunday, this is getting far out, day 8, but I do agree with this. We probably won't have much to watch on Sunday. Monday, maybe something to watch going back into the plains, and then going into Tuesday, Wednesday, sometime Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Over a week out, will probably continue to increase with the opportunity for severe weather. And often this highlights a way too large of an area. So, day 11, it has like a third of the U.S. highlighted for the chance of severe weather. But by the time we get around to day 11, we may be looking at only like down in here for the real risk of severe weather. But this is generally just to show you that we should enter like a 3-day lull of severe weather. And then towards the last week of April, as always, right around the last week of April, we're going to uptick with the risk for severe weather. Yeah, tornado outbreak is possible on Tuesday. Oh, for those of you wanting the site, here you go. I see a lot of y'all asking about that. There you go. And it does a lot more too. Like it even has the probability of severe watches. Probability of a severe watch or just overall watch probability here. You can see we're going to get a watch in Minnesota, Wisconsin tomorrow. So it has some cool products for sure. But what I like to use the most is the severe probability version 1.1. Version 1.2 just seems to be a little bit more of an aggressive version, which I doubt is as right. This actually, version 1, might be the best one because that prints up here in Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Wisconsin, which I can agree a lot on, and then maybe the dry line. whereas version 1.1 prints a huge area. But all right, that's going to be about it. You are not distracting me from ending because I got to go. So if you did enjoy today's live stream, make sure you hit that subscribe button with a notification bell set to all. We'll be live once, maybe even 2 times tomorrow. Just depends on how bad things look. And just make sure that notification bell is set to all after you subscribe so you know when I go live tomorrow at some point. Also consider hitting that like button and sharing this live stream with your family, friends, social media to help spread weather awareness. It's greatly appreciated. Don't forget to make sure you have your tornado preparedness plan in place if you're under the gun for severe weather over the next couple of days. Millions of people under the gun for severe weather over the next few days. So please make sure you are finishing up that tornado preparedness plan, especially if you live in central Minnesota, southern Minnesota, central Wisconsin, southern Wisconsin, anywhere in Iowa, northern Missouri, central northern Illinois. Really, this area right here is going to get hammered with severe weather over the next few days. This is going to be the main area to watch for multiple days of severe weather. But, all right, as Caleb is yapping there, trying to get me to stay alive, I'm going to switch over to the ending screen. I, again, appreciate you guys for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Sunday night. Enjoy the last day of the weekend. So, hopefully I ain't got school tomorrow, but you probably do. So have fun with that, and I will see you guys, like I said, once or twice tomorrow. We'll see. Some of you guys actually might be on spring break. Spring break up here ends. It ends on today, the last day of spring break. So I'm sure most of you guys have school or work. Terrible. All right, stay safe. Watch the severe weather. Thank you, Mods for Mod in chat. See you guys in tomorrow's live stream, whenever that may be. Have a great rest of your Sunday night. Goodbye. I completely forgot to mention this, but there is a Category 5 Super Typhoon heading just north of Guam. So if you guys are interested in typhoons, you should probably go look at that on Tropical Tidbits. By the way, it is also a sub 900 millibar. I think it's like 898 or something. And it's also like sustained winds of like 180. So it's pretty historic. stay safe, watch the severe weather, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's live stream. Have a great rest of your Sunday night. Good.